We do a few things like hot sausage rolls and pies and petits and stuff out of a pie warmer. But we're about to transition back into doing fresh sandwiches every day, especially for our Fitzroy store. There's a big lunch trade.
This is the Australian Butchers Guild podcast, brought to you by Meat and Livestock Australia, the podcast for passionate butchers.
G'day meat lovers, this is the Australian Butchers Guild podcast. I'm your host, Doug Piper. Today I'm catching up with the Meatsmith from Victoria, Troy Wheeler. Troy has 4 Meatsmith shops located throughout Melbourne and specialises in quality branded meats, cooked, ready-to-heat meals and a fantastic range of store-made charcuterie. I was lucky to get a tour through the Meatsmith operation with Troy at their Fitzroy shop a few weeks ago. The shop's spread across a couple of levels where all the meat meals and fresh prep are done. If you're in Melbourne and looking for some inspiration, the Meatsmith shops are just some of the must-see shops to visit. G'day, Troy.
Hey, Doug. How are you?
I'm well, mate. How are you going today?
Very good, thank you.
What shop are you in today, mate?
Working in our Fitzroy store today.
Okay, so what's on the agenda for today? Cooking, charcuterie?
A bit of everything. I've sort of worked the morning just setting up the store, and then I'll work my way into doing some product development in the kitchen, and then some small good stuff.
Awesome, mate. Mate, I'll start off with the word Meatsmith. What a great name for a butcher shop. How did you come up with that?
It was tricky, being that it was a business built from scratch. It wasn't an existing butcher shop, and, we were setting everything from the beginning. We sort of played around with some names and thinking of different things, and you think of the traditional ones using your surname or your name, including the butcher, which is like a pretty traditional standard thing for butcher shops. And we're sitting around at home one night and playing with wording with where the location is in the suburb, and then it was on Smith Street, and so we just put Meat and Smith Street together and we got Meatsmith. So that's how it came about, and we thought about that, if we grew businesses, we'd use the same theory on using the street and meat, but quickly learned that was a bit of a nightmare with like branding and packaging, and so Meatsmith stuck.
I can imagine. Would have been horrendous. No, it's a really cool name, and you often think about other trades, like you've got a blacksmith. I don't know if I can think of anybody else, but you're a wordsmith, but we use that contextually along the way. But the word Meatsmith really fits to what you guys do there, because I was in the Fitzroy store with you the other week, mate, and in some ways it was like stepping back in time, but looking at an ultra modern butcher shop, because the look and feel that you have in that shop is quite dated, but everything is new, and it's just really it's just so inviting to go in there and look at what you've got. Yeah,
I think we've taken a fair bit of inspiration from like Europe, and like you think of going into those beautiful old butcher shops through France and Italy, and they're established parts of the community and they've been there forever, and they've got their own beautiful bits of history that exist there. And I think when we built the place, we wanted to use those materials like terrazzo and marble and timber and stuff, so we felt like that would age well in the shop, and we can still apply our craft to it and keep it modern.
Yeah, you've certainly captured that. I've only seen the Fitzroy store, but you've certainly captured that there, because it does remind me of some of the shops in Europe that we've visited over the years. It's a really cool place. You've always worked in Melbourne, mate?
I originally grew up and did my apprenticeship in a small country town on the Murray River, a place called Barham, which is in between Echuca and Swan Hill. So I did my apprenticeship there at quite a young age, left school at 15, pretty typical story of most butchers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then after working there for doing my apprenticeship and probably working a year or so beyond that, I made my way to Melbourne.
Who did you work for in Melbourne?
I originally so I'd lined up a job working at a butcher shop in Paran Market, and so it was a lengthy process of me leaving the country butcher shop. It was a very family-run place, and it was me and the 2 guys that worked there. So like me leaving left a bit of a gap. So they took their leave and stuff before I left, and had a bit of time off with their family, and then I had a long-winded communication with this butcher shop in the Paran Market, and when I was ready to start and leave, I had rocked up on the Saturday prior to being ready to start on the Monday, looking to ready myself for the job, and the guy told me he didn't have anything for me, so I
Oh, that's handy.
I was like, now I've got to go back to the country and ask for my job back, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do now. It was such a drawn out process, you know. And I knew of a butcher shop down the road, Peter Boucher's in Hawkesburn Village. I'd worked with a guy once upon a time that had told me about his time working there and his experiences working there. So I just, as a whim, I'm like, oh, I've got nothing to lose here. So I'll just walk down there and asked if they had any work. At the time, Peter didn't, but he called me back on the Monday and he's like, oh, look, I wouldn't mind giving you a shot. Can you start tomorrow? And I'm like, oh, I've driven all the way back to the country. No. And I said, no worries, I'll just, I'll pack up the car again, I'll head back down again, and started the next day. And I worked for Peter for the next 12, 13 years.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Peter's a brilliant operator, isn't he? He's got a fantastic business model there and a really genuine sort of guy too.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's been a huge mentor to me. He, you know, took me under his wing and quickly promoted me into like a manager's position and really helped me evolve as a butcher and learn as a cook, and still is today. Like I still speak to Peter most days and he helps me a lot in business and all that kind of stuff. He's great.
Are you a cook as well, or you're just a butcher, or?
Just a butcher, but I'm pretty passionate about cooking, so I feel like I'm competent.
How important do you think that part is in not just your business for a butcher to sort of investigate more of the cooking side of the industry?
I think it's extremely important. You know, we converse with our customers every day about cooking. You know, it wouldn't often go by that, you know, a customer doesn't ask you like how to cook a steak, or people still ask you how to cook a chicken schnitzel, but often it's people are becoming more versed in their cooking knowledge and experience. So being able to advise them properly is like a huge part of our job now.
If you think about it, we've probably got, pre the pandemic, we had generations of people that were living on pizza, takeaway, you know, Kentucky Fried, all those QSRs. They were just eating out of that, so they didn't really cook. And, you know, you've got families there that have, well, generations of families that just haven't bothered cooking or learning how to cook. So come the pandemic, what did they do? They probably they couldn't afford to eat out every night, so therefore they had to teach themselves how to cook. And I think butchers were in a really great position there, those that you know, had their head screwed on properly and that really wanted to improve their business. You know, they helped a lot of families out along the way.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a fast track on people's confidence in cooking and willing to try new things, and yeah, it's great. I think it's really good for us.
I think one of the most popular recipes Googled on our beef website was corned beef, would you believe? And mince, spaghetti bolognese, I think, was the most popular dish that people were making throughout that whole period.
Wow.
You know, they were always looking for variations of spaghetti bolognese that we have on our sites. Mate, going with the corning side of it, charcuterie, I noticed that you have quite an extensive range of small goods in this shop, and you make them yourself?
Yeah, we make everything in-house. The only thing that we don't make is fermentation, so we don't make our salamis and whole muscle curing products. But everything that's cooked we make, you know, from basic hams and bacon to pastrami's and mortadella and all forms of cooked sausages and terrines and stuff like that, pates and parfaits.
The sandwich side of the business, not so much you making sandwiches, but the meats for sandwiches and that. Do you think that's like coming into summer, that's a pretty good thing to sort of, I know a lot of butchers do it, but expanding your repertoire of what you've got there for sandwiches, like making your own pastrami, for instance, like you do, you know, do you sell volume of that, or is it sort of, you just sort of something that you just keep there for people that they, you know, come and buy a few slices every now and again?
No, I think we've got a few like specialty lines like pastrami and our house-made mortadella, like smoked turkey, you know, some Lyonnaise sausage and stuff. Those things are like really popular. So we sell quite a lot of those, like a few 100 kilos of each category a week. And then we actually do make sandwiches.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're currently, because it's a bit colder now, you know, we do a few things like hot sausage rolls and pies and petiviers and stuff out of a pie warmer. But we're about to transition back into doing sandwiches, where we make fresh sandwiches every day for especially for our Fitzroy store. There's a big lunch trade.
What a great idea. There was a guy I spoke to not long ago who he's opened up a hole in the wall next to his butcher shop, and he does egg and bacon rolls and burgers all day long. But sandwiches is another way to go, I suppose. Yeah,
it's good. We've got, because the Victoria store in particular has the production kitchen, a part of the butcher shop. There's chefs there working every day, so it's not that hard to activate them, and they're working with the products every day, so you can just create another little revenue stream that sort of be a butcher shop that ticks away without adding too much labour.
You also spoke, when we were talking, you were talking about you were doing a little bit of work overseas, mate. How did that all come about? Yeah,
I've had a few jobs where I've done some consultancy work for some other butcher shops. It originally started, I did a job in LA like a bit over a year ago, and I worked in Curtis Stone's butcher shop called Gwen. So he engaged me to do a consultancy job of going over and training and developing staff in some skilled butchery, teaching them how to do value adding, and setting up some systems and procedures in regards to like stock management and like how to set up a display case and manage that stock with minimal waste and, stock taking and all that kind of stuff. And some like structural training and development in like implementing a head butcher and then the butcher underneath him, and then line staff and how the reporting structure of that kind of stuff works. And I guess it initially happened, I was looking to sort of upskill our business due to not really getting a lot of skilled labor coming through the door, and we were trying to employ people, like specific types of people for our business, and we sort of weren't really getting the talent that we were after. And I was looking to set up, I guess, like a trade share program where we would share our staff. So we would send a staff member over to a butcher shop, and they would send our staff member back to us. They'd get trained and developed in what we do, and ours would get trained and developed in what they would do. So a bit of a skilled share program as an incentive to attract good talent for the business. And I contacted Curtis whether he'd be interested in doing that. And at the time, he really wasn't. And then it sort of progressed into like, hey, would you mind actually coming over here and developing our place? And then in turn, one of his guys actually came over here recently and worked for a little bit and has gone back. And it was good because it was the context of what I taught them. It was hard to sort of envisage working in a place like America, but once he came over and worked here, it all just made sense. So he's gone back, and all that implementation that we did he'll be able to like take it beyond and make it better for their business.
I know I've been to the States a few times and sort of struggled to find just a regular butcher shop. Their butchery's a little bit different than what we do.
Yeah.
They're nowhere near as I suppose the range of cuts. They sort of tend to specialise in something in particular rather than have a full range of beef, lamb, pork, veal, chicken.
It's very much focused around their cuisine and what they eat, and it doesn't really venture much outside of that.
No.
And I guess it was also driven from the idea of because I grew up in the country and I learned all of these skills in a country butcher shop that are really not taught the same these days, well, especially in our type of business. So it's like, how can I implement these types of skills that I picked up when I was a young apprentice and pass that on to the younger guys that are coming through us? The industry's changed quite a bit. So like how are other ways that we can teach these guys new skills and great skills that can in turn help our business and then set them up for the future?
Yeah, actually I was at World Skills on the last week. The apprentices or the young butchers that were actually competing, they were just so professional and really engaging young men and women, and the quality of the skill was incredible. Like, they did a fantastic job watching them work away, and it wasn't just for a couple of hours. I think it was like 3 full days. So they had a lot of time invested in the competition, and it sort of reflects the type of butchers that are out there that are training the young butchers, and the programs that TAFE and the RTOs are giving them. It's a credit to everybody involved because when, as you said, our trade has changed a lot over the years. It's no longer just meat and sausages. It's more value add. It's more telling people how to cook. So yeah, a big credit to everybody involved, and in particular the employers of those students.
Yeah, I think it's great. Super positive that these young kids are getting into it, and the business owners and employers are showing that support and giving them the time and resources to develop. I think it's great.
There was a young girl from Marcus Fermi's shop down in Tasmania there. She was brilliant. She actually took out the beef breaking section where they had a forequarter of beef to break down, and just the skill level and she showed a lot of confidence when she was doing it. She never sort of second guessed herself when she was marking everything out, and all they had to do was break it down into the primals. They didn't have to bone it. Boning was for another day. And but just the way that she did everything, it was just, she was very methodical, and she didn't have any slash marks anywhere. But she won that part of the competition. So, you know, just because you're a woman in the trade, and doesn't mean that you can't do things the same, if not better, than what the blokes are doing. Because I tell you what, you know, she showed some real class when she did it. She broke it down so well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think it's like, I've probably learned this a while ago. Like, I've worked with lots of female apprentices and female butchers over the years. I've currently got 2 female apprentices and 1 female butcher who's on maternity leave. The best way that we have taught them is, like, it's not about like brawn and muscle and like having to lift and do all these heavy things. If you've got the right technique and the confidence, it's actually pretty easy to break it down, as long as you're confident where your cuts are, using gravity and using different techniques to break them down. You know, you don't have to be like this massive unit to like break it down. Like, you can still do it.
No, yeah, exactly. She certainly proved it to everybody that she could do it. And we had actually there was probably out of all of the sections, that all the parts of the competition, that was the part which just drew so many people to watch, because, you know, butchers can do things that no one else can do, like breaking down an animal into the different cuts and then fabricating the steaks and the other cuts out of those primals, you know. So it was amazing to see how many people had an interest in that part of the competition.
That's great.
Cooking in the store, you do a lot of ready-made meals to go.
Yeah, we do. We've got, I think I've reduced the range a little bit lately, but like, yeah, we do a ready-made meal, which is like a portion for 2 people. We'll do things like traditional stuff like lasagna and bolognese, but also do things like some curries, like some classic coq au vin. We do some seasonal stuff, like in winter we might do a charcuterie or some duck cassoulet, and then condiments and stuff as well. So like pepper sauces and red wine jus, and we do gochujang and sesame like dressing and ranch dressing. We do all sorts of stuff.
How many chefs do you have working in there with you?
Currently, I have 6 chefs working.
Wow. And what sort of percentage would the cooked versus the raw be in the store?
I think each store is different. I probably find that our Fitzroy and St Kilda store, the percentage of cooked meals is probably higher versus our Brighton and Baldwin store. And it's probably about 40%, I reckon, of our turnover of what product is sold each week. So it's pretty high.
Yeah, a lot of butchers that I've seen are doing a lot of cooking, but a bit sort of wary about how far they can push themselves, and changing your menu seasonally is a great idea. What's the most popular one of the lot? What, you know, out of all the products that you cook there that goes there, what's the most popular one?
I think lasagna is probably most popular.
Yeah.
Our lasagnas are not quite a traditional one. We do a ricotta instead of a bechamel, so it's a bit lighter. So it's like quite meaty. We cook the sauce out and the meat quite heavily, so it's well caramelized and a rich sauce. And then to offset that, instead of having that rich, thick bechamel, we use like a whipped ricotta, so it just lightens it up a little bit, and it's extremely popular.
And you do a lot of product testing before it actually goes out for sale, don't you?
Yeah, we do. I guess because my business partner is a chef, and we adopted a few processes and procedures that restaurants do, like making sure that your food is tested and costed and goes through like a scrutinized program before we release it, so we make sure it's a success. So we do a lot of that, and then obviously like laboratory shelf life testing and bacterial testing and stuff, making sure that it's wholesome and it can hold up to use-by dates and stuff like that as well.
Types of beef and lamb that you sell in this shop, you use a lot of branded product?
Primarily our beef comes from O'Connor's in Gippsland. They're probably our main supplier in beef. So we'll get, mostly carton stuff and then some whole joints, fresh joints and things for dry aging. And for selling is like fresh ribeyes and short loins and stuff in the store. And then lamb and pork. Lamb is sort of selective stuff that's from different farmers and stuff we work with around the region. And that changes as per what supply they have. And then we'll move on to the next one. Over the years, we've sort of set it up that we've pretty much got a consistent rotation of people throughout the year as different lambing cycles and seasons change per grower. And then our pig producer primarily is Glen Eyrie Rare Breed Farm just outside of Kilmore. And she's a rare breed grower, and she grows specifically for like conservation of breed. And so we just take whatever the larger amount of numbers of breeds that she has at the time and sort of rotate through those 7 rare breeds.
What sort of breeds are you talking about there?
So she has like the large blacks, the Berkshires, the Wessex, the Hampshires, the Durocs, Tamworth, and a couple of others.
Yeah, right, okay.
So primarily we use like the Hampshires and the Tamworth. They're like the lowest breed numbers that she has. So like we use them so she can build up stock numbers. And then to anyone else, she sells off those genetics for people to breed with, whether they're crossbreeding other pigs with like land races or whatever it may be. But we try and use the purebred stock.
And what about lamb? Any breed in particular with your lamb that you're using?
Originally, I used to do a heap of work with the Australian Rare Breed Heritage Sheep Association, which iconically the office of that is located in South Yarra, which is the furthest part of what you would think an agricultural centre Australia would be. We used to do lots with the old English heritage breeds like Hampshire and Cheviots and Lincolns, and I guess over the years, like a lot of those farmers they'd retired and moved on, and the next generation hadn't kept any of those purebred studs. So we still a little bit. Most people have diversified into doing those composite breeds, and they're using the different breeds to build their livestock to their region. I've still got a couple of ones that do the Hampshires, and for me, they're like the ultimate breed. They've got great composition. They've got really good fat marbling through the muscle and really great yield. I think they're great.
Yeah, we've spoken to a couple of butchers in the past that are using Hampshire Downs, and they're certainly a beautiful animal. I've yet to try one, but I will be making my way down to Sydney one day, and I'm going to grab some and throw it on the barbie and see what they're like. But I love the fact that there's such a big eye muscle in them. Yeah. In some of these animals, they're huge. Some of them. Dry aging as well. You do a fair bit of that. Is that a popular line in all your stores, or is it just something that you provide to your customers at specific times of the year?
It's a constant. We sell quite a bit of it. Primarily, we just do ribeyes and short loins. So we get like nice big T-bones, and then that sirloin end of the short loin, we do some club steaks, which is like porterhouse on the bone. They're really the only 3 cuts that we offer. We sort of cut them pretty thick as like a sharing steak. Each ribeye is like 1 to 1.2, so depending on your appetite, it'll feed how many other people. Yeah, it's extremely popular. Like with the program and the system's all pretty solid, and we get a really good end result.
Yeah, that's fantastic, mate. Look, I really enjoyed that tour through your shop the other day, and how you've got the whole setup, everything is in the one place. It was a real eye-opener for me, because there's just so much happening in that. It's not a huge shop, but it's spread out over a couple of levels, but it was certainly a huge eye-opener to how you can actually make a business work so well and produce so much food in that environment, in that small area. So well done there, mate.
Yeah, we squeeze every little inch out of our building, that's for sure.
You're not wrong there. Mate, well, it's been great to catch up with you, but before we go, we've got the fast 4 questions. So are you ready for them?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So what's your go-to cut of meat and the best way you prepare it?
Like a rib end pork chop is probably my go-to favourite with all its trimming.
Oh, you're killing me, mate. You're killing me. Pork. Yeah, go on.
Pan fried, finished with like a little, just a simple sauce from like a chicken stock production. Super simple, very delicious. Heap of salt.
If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be? And don't say pork chop, mate.
Bangers and mash for sure. I love them.
Yum, spot on. And gravy. You got to have gravy.
And gravy for sure. Yeah.
And what are you not very good at?
I'm actually really bad at poaching eggs. No matter how hard I've tried, I am terrible at it.
All right, last one. If there was anywhere in the world where you could be right now, where would it be and why?
I don't know. It's been a while since I've had a little, like a summer holiday on a beach somewhere. So maybe like a little deserted desert island somewhere like Vanuatu or something like that, just sitting on a beach, drinking beers, lapping up the sun.
Sounds pretty good. All right, mate. Well, look, thanks a lot for your time today. I really appreciate you what you're doing for the trade, and your business model is absolutely sensational, mate. It's brilliant. It's just great to see such professional people out there in the industry and making a go of it and succeeding. So thanks a lot, mate. Really enjoyed today's talk, and we'll catch up soon.
Great. Thanks so much, Doug.
Good on you, Troy. Cheers, mate. I'd like to remind you that we've opened up membership to the Australian Butchers Guild for all butchers, apprentices and meat workers. The membership's free and you must be working in the Australian meat industry in Australia to qualify. We've already got around about 2,000 members and it's so easy to join up. All you need to do is head over to the Australian Butchers Guild website and each month we will email you the Butchers Paper newsletter. So make sure you join up with the Australian Butchers Guild and you'll get a lot of those benefits.